Hey everyone, welcome back to Founder Secrets They Don't Tell You. This webinar is hosted and in partnership with Osome and Aspire. Osome is a digital service provider which helps founders like you register your business and manage your accounting and taxes. Aspire is the all-in-one finance platform for modern businesses globally, with a mission to reinvent business finance for a new generation of entrepreneurs and businesses. Just to recap on what these webinars are about, it is a fast and practical sessions built for founders who want straight talk and smart tips. I am Don from Osome, and I will be your host today. Today's topic is Bank, Comply, Thrive. It is a compact masterclass for Singapore and Hong Kong founders on the two things that make or break momentum: business admin/compliance and also business banking setup. Today, we're joined by Deepti Lada, Managing Director and Head of Corporate Services at Singapore, Osome Singapore. She will cover what Singapore and Hong Kong founders must follow, the common admin traps to avoid, and how to stay compliant without drowning in paperwork. The second presenter is Effie Leonard, Vice President of Customer Onboarding at Aspire. He'll walk through the process of a smooth digital account opening, what banks and fintechs screen for, and also the mistakes that trigger delays or rejections. We will then wrap up with a Q&A session, so please drop your questions into the chat and we will answer 4 to 5 questions, but not to worry if yours are not covered. You can book a free consult right after with our experts. And final one on a quick housekeeping before I hand it over to the speakers. This session is recorded and we will email it to everyone after the session. We are also excited to offer some exclusive promotions and it will be displayed on the closing slide via a QR code, so stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's kickstart the webinar and I will hand it over to Deepti.
Thank you, Don. Hello, everyone. So I'll just run you through to some compliance and admin requirements. So we'll just start with the basics about Hong Kong and Singapore. While the two markets are similar, there's some key differences in their filing timelines and statutory requirements. Starting with Hong Kong first, there's a requirement of an annual audit for all the companies, except if the company is dormant, and a requirement to also file an annual return. Moving next is the profit tax returns and the employer's returns to be filed by the companies for all its employees. Next is the mandatory provident fund contributions, and followed by the business registration certificate to be renewed on an annual basis in order to run your business on a regular basis. Moving next is for Singapore founders. You must prepare the financial statements annually. Audits is exempted if you're a small private company. You are also required to hold an annual general meeting within 6 months from the financial year end, followed by an annual return filing as well. Next, we go with the corporate tax and the ECI, which is estimated chargeable income, to be filed with the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore. If the company's turnover exceeds $1 million, then there's a GST registration as well, which is mandatory, and returns are to be filed on quarterly basis. And not to forget the CPF contributions, which are to be done on a monthly basis, and employee reporting to be done every year in March. The key over here is to maintain clear and accurate records, even if the company is exempted from audits. As you see, both the markets are quite similar, but there are also some moving patterns, and missing any one of them can cause additional stress and penalties as well. Moving next, we go into the common admin traps. Now, these common admin traps do take place when we miss out on the deadlines, which first is that missing deadlines is equivalent to instant penalties by the regulatory authorities, followed by another one, which is a last minute book closing activities, where you wait until the last minute to close the books of accounts, which also creates audit stress, followed by payroll delays. Any delay in the payroll would also result in delay with CPF and MPF contributions in the respective countries. There can also be corporate secretarial gaps where changes in directors or shareholdings, if it's not updated, can also impose compliance risk. Specifically for Hong Kong, we also have the assumption basis where profit and tax returns deadlines are fixed on an annual pattern. It's not. It is assigned by the Inland Revenue Authority, and they are differentiated based on different code groups. So each code has its own timeline. So it's very important to make sure that on an annual basis, this is being checked. Moving next is how Osome can help you. This is where Osome comes in place, where our platform is designed to help founders like you stay on top of the obligations without the usual admin chaos. You get automated deadline reminders and a compliance calendar within the Osome app. You can also create and send invoices within the same platform, which also gives you the liberty of not actually switching the platforms, but just use one platform for all the services. There's also one stop document repository where you can find all the files at the middle of the night itself. There's also a real time bookkeeping with secure bank feeds and monthly closes that are audit ready for you so that you're not spending time towards the closing period. And if you need help, you also get instant access to real time experts via our digital chat. So the idea over here is simple. You build the business, and we make sure that the compliance side runs smoothly on behalf of Osome. Moving next, I would pass it over to FA Leonard to go through some Aspire insights.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is F.A. Leonard. I work for Aspire. So Aspire could be a banking option for you. And I want to make sure that I give you some pointers on how to make onboarding at Aspire as smooth as possible. A few things that you need to kind of tick to make sure that this can go well. The first one is obviously make sure that the usage of your bank account is something that respects the law of Singapore or Hong Kong. Second one is to make sure that your entity comes from a country that we support, or the activity in which you operate is a country that we support. Now, normally there shouldn't be a problem, but we don't support countries like Cambodia or Cuba. There's some countries we don't support, so make sure that you only operate in countries that we are able to support. Of course, we also only support, there are certain entities or individuals that we cannot support. If, for instance, any of your directors or shareholders or any kind of sanction list or a negative adverse media, we won't be able to support you as well, although that is really, really rare. Of course, also, we want to make sure that we support your own business. If you apply for a Aspire bank account, you have to make sure that you use it for your own business and not for another company, of course. And finally, at Aspire and most online banks, we cannot support every activity. So things like, for instance, tobacco or unregistered charities, we do not support. So we'll make sure that your business activity corresponds to an industry that we have the risk appetite for. So some tick marks to keep in mind. During your registration, we'll ask you some documents, all digital. No need to show up physically or send any mails. So you can do everything online, which is amazing. But I do want to kind of train you through a few pitfalls that you want to avoid in the next slide to make sure that your online onboarding goes as fast as possible. Two main pitfalls that we see. First one is unclear documentation, and the second one is vague business description. I prepared a few examples to make it as concrete as possible. First one is unclear documentations. We sometimes ask you documents like your website, social media, maybe some marketing material, your business plan, to just make sure that you do what you say that you do, right? And we want to make sure, that, of course, that these documents come in at a high quality. So, of course, for instance, if you send us a website, make sure that this is indeed your website, not of another company. Make sure your website is accessible, that we don't need to use some kind of VPN to access it, that it's here ready to go. If you send us an Instagram page, make sure it has followers, and we can actually use it to get a conviction that this is indeed, you do what indeed you say that you do. If you send us marketing material, let it be as specific as possible. If you send us a business plan, let it be as specific as possible. Again, what we're trying to do here is grow conviction that you do indeed what you say you do to protect Hong Kong and Singapore. That unclear documentation. The other pitfall that we see is you're too vague in your business description. Again, here we want to create a conviction that you do what you say you do, and to able to convince us, try to be as specific as you can. Here's a few examples that we judge not specific enough that will lead us to communicate with you, send you an email to ask you follow-up questions. So if you want to avoid that, you want to avoid being vague, like, again, the examples are business consulting firm. We provide expert advice and solution to our clients to help them improve their performance, solve operational challenge as to achieve their goals. That's very, very vague. We want to know what kind of industry you'll be serving, how you will solve the solution, what kind of skill set you might have, experience, or software that you will use to solve that problem. Be more specific, right? And the last one, we have a client who listed pretty much a lot of different functions strategic planning, operational improvement, finance, accounting, advisory, marketing, change management, technology, risk management, etc. That is very vague. You're pretty much listing every industry or function you can think of. And that doesn't give us a lot of confidence that you come in to do something very specific. So again, if you're vague in your business description, we will likely come back to you and say, what do you mean by that? Because we want, again, to grow conviction that you'll be doing what you say you will be doing with your bank account. Awesome. Maybe closing words for me before we go to Q&A, just to present what Aspire is. So we're all-in-one financial platform in Singapore and Hong Kong. And we offer a unified financial service with things like multi-currency businesses, if you need different currencies. We offer global payments and transparent FX at a very, very competitive rate. We allow you to have corporate cards with cashback and budget. We have automated expenses to make it very easy for you and your employees to do their expenses, which we know is a bit annoying sometimes. We offer bill payments and bulk payments if you have a lot of payments to do for your client or for your suppliers or whatever. We offer yield now as well to make sure your money doesn't stand there and doesn't give you a return. And we also have API integration and all that with 24/7 support and no monthly fees. We're able to offer this to more than 50,000 businesses across the region. And yeah, onboarding is very fast, digital friendly, and now you know how to do it. So it'll be very, very smooth for you as well.
Thank you so much, Deepti and Effie, for such insightful sharings. I hope you guys have gained some tips and tricks from them. So let's now move into the Q&A segment. And let me see, I think the first question we have, it is, what is the fastest way to open a business account in Singapore if I don't live there? I think I could pass it over to FA. Would you like to kind of provide some more insights on this?
The good thing is that onboarding at Aspire doesn't require you to be physically in Singapore. There are some constraints, like you have to have a local director, but again, that doesn't require to be you living in Singapore. So you can do everything online, and it's absolutely possible for you to open a bank account in a matter of hours at Aspire. It's just your ability to provide us all the necessary documents, very specific business description, clear documentation. But the fact that you're not based in Singapore is not a deterrent. You just have to make sure you get a local director, and that's where Osome can help.
Got it. Thank you so much, Afi, for that. The next question is, let me see. For this one, what document mismatch most often triggers rejection in Hong Kong? Maybe Afi, could you provide a little bit more insights on that as well?
I think most of the issue is documents that prove that you do what you say you do. That's often the issue is, and you want this to be as specific as possible. So for instance, if you send us a business plan that you created on ChatGPT in half an hour, we're probably going to ask follow-up questions. If you send us an invoice, usually we think invoices are not good enough, so we'll ask you for other documentations. So really, it's about give us the best document possible that show that you do what you say you do, and that's usually the issue. We also often see issues maybe with quality of the ID that you send of your directors and UBOs, that we call shareholders, but that's not as frequently an issue. The main issue is really the documents that prove that you do what you say you do.
Got it. Thank you so much, Fa. I think the next one as well, it is, what is understood as negative adverb media? An article created by, sorry, I missed the question a little bit. An article created by a random blog, for instance. Could you provide a little bit of insights on negative adverb media on your end, Fa?
Great question. So we rely on obviously the vendors whose job is to scour the internet on news media. And if any of your directors, large shareholders, or yourself as the admin applying for the bank account is listed in an article that is negative, maybe linking you to fraud or to some kind of crime, then we likely won't be able to serve you. So if it's a positive or neutral media article, no worries, but it has to do with linking you, your director, your shareholder with some kind of crime, then again, we won't be able to serve you. Again, it's really rare, so but theoretically, that is something that we do check.
Got it. Thank you so much, Fa. Okay, the other two questions I think is also related to a little bit about business transactions, but I think also maybe we could hear a little bit more from Deepti on her end, maybe something more like, what is the main rule of, like the general rule of thumb for business incorporations in Singapore or Hong Kong? You could provide your expert opinions on that as well. That would be fantastic.
Yes, sure. So for Singapore, to start with Singapore, the basic rule of thumbs is that you need to have a local director, like how F.A. Leonard also mentioned. Like a local director is one of the mandatory requirements in Singapore, followed by a shareholder and having like a certain set of capital in place and so on. What it really makes a difference in terms of when you're incorporating company in Singapore is to identify that what is the exact business activity that you're looking for, and to also ensure that does this business activity require a license in place. So it's important to actually tick mark all these requirements so that you can actually set yourself up for a successful business in place and an uninterrupted one as well. For Hong Kong, the requirements are more straightforward as compared to Singapore because there is no local director requirement need per se. And one of the benefit which Hong Kong also has is that it allows a corporate to be a director as well, which is something very important for companies which are expanding, or rather for founders who want to expand at multi-country levels. So these important aspects will definitely help companies to actually set up for success at the very start and then move on to building their business.
Thank you so much, Dipti. And I think writing on to what you have mentioned, just another question from the attendees. In Singapore versus Hong Kong, what is the most commonly missed in maybe like the first 90 days of the company setup? Do you have any advice for them, what to keep track on right from the get?
Yes. So to start with Hong Kong this time, one of the important aspects is the business registration certificate. It's very important for the companies to actually register their business and then get the certificate so that they can kickstart working on the business that they are willing to build. And for Singapore, it's about ensuring that they have their bank accounts in place, which is also for Hong Kong in general, but Hong Kong has this one additional requirement of business registration certificate. Ultimately, once a company has been set up and once all the licenses that are required for the relevant business are put in place, it's important to set up a bank account or to set up an online account with Aspire, of course, so that you're very well integrated with the relevant service provider that you've taken in place. And you can put that in rest in terms of that everything will be done by way of automation when we are running on different integrations for accounting entries and so on, and while they focus on their business.
Got it. Thank you so much, Deepti. I think we would take just a few more questions. So if you guys have one last question to send in, please feel free to send one. Feel free to send it in. So I think maybe to wait for the response to kind of build up again. Maybe the last question on my end is when should I separate a personal or versus business finances? And I think it's a little bit tied to FA and Aspire. Would you like to take that on?
In terms of like the expenses and cost and revenue of your company?
Yeah, like some general, rule of thumb or, anything they have to keep out for, just like what they have to know in that manner.
I'm going to be honest with you. I would have a vague idea of exactly what the rule of law says here. So, Deepti, do you mind taking that one? I don't
Yes,
want to say
sure.
something stupid.
Sure. So it is very common that when a company is incorporated and director or shareholders would actually inject funds from their end, or rather for the purpose of incorporation also, they would pay from their personal bank accounts for incorporating the companies. That is the only time when you're using your personal bank accounts. After that, you need to use your corporate bank accounts, whether it's related to your expenses, whether it's related to paying salaries to your employees, or paying any of the disbursements to the regulatory authorities. It is very important to segregate the personal and corporate finances in a manner that any activities done within the company, any payouts, any pay-ins, everything are dealt through the corporate bank accounts.
Got it. Thank you so much, Deepti and FA. And I think that is the last question for today. But if you guys have any other question, please do not worry about it. You can build a free consult on our end. So, and that is the webinar for today. And thank you guys for attending. And if we didn't get to answer your question, again, feel free to book a consult via the respective QR codes below. And also, we have exclusive offers just for this webinar to cover your incorporation fee. So for Singapore, there's a 20% discount from Osome on your first invoice with selected packages. And also from Aspire, you can enjoy a cashback of $350 where you open an account through Osome from us, essentially. And for Hong Kong, please get ready to have a cashback of HKD $4,950 from Aspire as well. And yep, that is all on my end. So the next webinar is on the 4th of September, and you can register for all of the sessions beforehand as on well. And on behalf of Osome and Aspire, see you at our next webinar. Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.